DC Eternals. That's all it is.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to Clayton County Library System Virtual Graphic Novel Club. My name is Erica.
And I'm Roland.
And we bring you today, as Roland just jokingly said, DC's Eternals, but really it should be the other way around because it's DC's New Gods and it was first. So there we go. So we're going to jump right in because we have a lot of people and characters and stuff to cover today, and we're going to go right on in there. All right, so DC New Gods. Jack Kirby, who we are all familiar with Marvel, he created some of the most iconic characters. I did not realize this, Roland, but he drew on Captain America when it came out in like 1941.
I knew he was one of the authors.
Yeah, he was the artist. He was the icon, you know, that iconic red, white, and blue suit and everything. That was him. But in 1960s, he was that huge Fantastic Four, not Spider-Man. He did not do Spider-Man, but he did Thor, some other stuff. He did a lot of stuff for Marvel, but he and Marvel had a falling out in 1970 and he left. Now, the cool thing is that he had the idea for New Gods for Marvel in 67. Again, he left over creative differences. So he joined DC. DC swooped him up, hired him real quick, and he started changing the characters that he had in his head from Marvel to DC, and he created what is called the fourth world for DC. They wanted to create an origin story for all of their stuff. And so he gets the fourth world for DC and he launches 3 titles. We have DC's New Gods, Mr. Miracle, and the Forever People. He envisioned as a finite series that interlocked with stories that will eventually be collected into one single volume. It can get confusing for readers new to DC because to keep up with the complex world of New Gods. I think I mentioned this when we covered the Internals.
Right.
It is confusing. So we're going to try to simplify this as best we can today and give you some of the major and some of the minor characters and the worlds that they live in. New Gods can also be referred to as the fourth world of DC. They came into existence when the world of the old gods, the gods of classic mythology, was destroyed during Ragnarok. The world of these known deities was split and became 2 separate planets, forever linked but utterly different. One is called New Genesis and the other one is called Apocalypse. New Genesis is lush and green and it's a planet full of life, whereas Apocalypse is a nightmare planet. The planet is literally scorched earth and it's almost uninhabitable. These worlds exist outside of DC's multiverse. They can only be accessed through boom tubes that travel between the multiverses. So if you travel to Prime Earth or Earth 2, it's the same group since they exist outside the multiverse. So you may have all these Earths and all these universes in DC, and when this was written in 1970, they had quite a few Earths. We'll talk about why that changed later, but there is only one group of these guys. Right. There's only one group of New Gods, and so it doesn't matter where they show up in time, it's the same group of people. So that's important to remember. There's not multiple Apocalypse, there's not multiple High Fathers. So due to this, they travel through the boom tubes, but they are always at war with one another. So Apocalypse and New Genesis are always at war. And they decided at one point in time to have a truce. It was a barter truce, but due to mistrust, a sacrifice had to be made on both sides. So High Father and Darkseid agreed to stop the violence to ensure that the treaty was honored, each would give up a son to the other, meaning if you have somebody at a stake at that planet, you're less likely to destroy it. So Highfather took Darkseid's second son, Orion, while Orion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Orion? This is not Lord of the Rings, man.
Yes. Oh, okay, like the
Yeah.
right.
Go to the next.
Yeah. What world? Woo, there, yeah. While Highfather's son, Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle, was sent to Darkseid. Orion was a challenging child from the beginning. He's full of rage and deceit, but Highfather and the gods of New Genesis were forever patient with him. And over time, Orion learned to control his anger and channel it to be more productive avenues. He became New Genesis' best warrior and one of his biological father's most challenging foes. That has to suck. Scott, unsurprisingly, had a far bleaker childhood growing up on Apokolips. He was reared in one of Granny Goodness's terror orphanages, and his life was cruel and brutal from morning to night. When he grew older, he met Big Barda, who is the strongest, most powerful of the female fairies. And who sensed his inner warmth and kindness. The two fell in love and joined a rebellious sect that taught them the importance of free thinking and innovation. Eventually, both escaped Apokolips and fled to Earth. Scott adopted the name Mr. Miracle, and the two got married. Darkseid had long anticipated and even planned for Scott's escape. You'll hear that a lot throughout these stories. Seeing that this was an opportunity to attack a now unprepared New Genesis. However, he did not foresee the loss of Big Barda, nor the fact that Orion would develop such difficult opponent to him, ultimately defeating Darkseid multiple times. But unfortunately, these series were canceled in 1974, so Kirby didn't even get a chance to finish it. He left DC and went back to Marvel, and there he created New Gods, New Gods 2.0, which was the Eternals. We have covered the Eternals here on this virtual graphic novel club, and you can go back and look at last year's April. I think it was in April that we did it. You can check that out on YouTube. But it was just the New Gods from Marvel. In 1977, the New Gods and Mr. Miracle were revived at DC with the same continuity as Kirby had envisioned, but Kirby did not return to DC until 1984, and he completed the New Gods with New Gods number 11. In the two new stories, he had New Gods Volume 2 and The Hunger Dogs. We will get to them later. He changed a few things also this time, which DC then changed in post-crisis, which is Crisis on Infinite Earths. Once that got rid of a lot of the multiverses, and so he had to change a few things to make it fit. The New Gods, Mr. Miracle, and the Forever People were rebooted then. New characters were reintroduced. We'll talk about some of them today. This era, it was written by J.M. DeMantis, Jim Starlin, and Mark Avener. After Crisis, there was Zero Hour, another one of DC reboots, and I think that happened around 1994. Zero Hour wiped away most of the storyline established by Crisis. Comic books do this all the time. For another reboot, they introduced New Gods number 4, New Gods Volume 4 in 1994. And then again in 2008, DC rebooted the lineup again, but this time with all the New Gods died. When DC introduced the New 52 after the year-long series 52 in 2010, the New Gods were reinvented. This time there were no connections to the previous storyline. And that is the total history of DC New Gods. Just want to make 2 notes here. Okay.
Say them for
Hyman
and
okay.
Metron.
Okay. All right.
Let's jump straight on into it. So the first planet, in the fourth world, like Erica said before, there are two planets, New Genesis and Apocalypse. The first one we're going to speak on is New Genesis. It's a lush green planet with life abundant. The only urban location would be Supertown, which is a floating city designed not to affect the planet's surface, which is usually inhabited by a group known as the Primitives, who decided to live a life free of Highfather's rule. New Genesis, though, is ruled by Highfather. This planet also hosts a race of super evolved insectoids known simply as the bugs of New Genesis, who have come to be accepted as equals by the Genesians. Each Genesian goes through a ceremony known as the Rite of Ascension that imbues them with power from the source in order to officially become a new god. New Genesis is also the home of the Young Forever people, created by Highfather Isaiah, and we'll speak on them later. And basically, they can combine their powers to summon the Infinity Man in defense of New Genesis. As mentioned before, the reshaping of the New God storyline changed over the years in the DC universe. Currently, after the multiverse is reshaping by Dr. Manhattan, New Genesis is now a highly powerful empire ruled by the firm and mighty Highfather, who still fights a never-ending war against his enemy and brother, Darkseid. That is New Genesis.
And this is Highfather Isaiah. Isaiah is the ruler of New Genesis. His full name is Isaiah the Inheritor. I'm sorry. My bad. It's raining outside. I'm sleepy. He is benevolent and good. He also was once just a warrior of New Genesis, like everyone else, with a wife, Avia. New Genesis was attacked by Darkseid, Darkseid's uncle Steppenwolf, and other warriors that we will mention later. They killed Avia and left him for dead, but he was nursed back to health by Valea, who would become his second wife, who is also the mother of Scott. He promotes tolerance and justice. However, he is willing to fight and defend his people and the greater universe against the forces of Apocalypse. He does not go into battles unprepared, and he has some spiritual help. Highfather is capable of communicating with the source, a giant wall of energy that binds all known existence and provides guidance only understood by Highfather. If the new gods have a god, it is the source. Highfather eventually killed Steppenwolf, but the revenge brought him no solace because the war continued on for many years. To this day, Highfather continues to lead the new gods of New Genesis and hopes to one day pass down the leadership to his son. But the relationship between father and son is strained, however, due to the results of the pact and Scott Free's general rejection of the ways of the gods in favor of the humans on Earth. And that is Highfather.
All right. Next we have Haimon. His first appearance was Mr. Miracle number 9 in August 72. Now, Haimon is a citizen of New Genesis who secretly lives on the planet Apocalypse, which is ruled by Darkseid. He is what they call a hunger dog, one of the lowest classes of individuals on Apocalypse. The hunger dogs are also a rebel force living out on Apocalypse, trying to undermine Darkseid from within. Haimon is an inventor and scientist and the creator of the Mother Box, the semi-sentient computers that most new gods wear. He also discovered Element X, which was used to create the Mother Box. A spoiler, he is resurfaced in the Death of the New God miniseries, in which he helps various heroes investigate the Rash of God murders. Eventually, it is highly suspected that the God killer is Haimon, whose ultimate goal is helping the source destroy the fourth wall and make a fifth world. It was revealed that Infinity Man was the killer and has been posing as Haimon to avoid detection. Superman saw Haimon trapped on the second source wall, revealing the ruse. Now, note that he is the inventor of the Mother Box, which, as we know in Justice League Fair, is something all powerful and is basically your boy Cyborg was created because his father basically melded him with the mother box, not knowing the power or it's even where it came to be.
Yeah.
So
it is from New Gen Apocalypse, actually.
And so the mother boxes, they are sentient supercomputers with seemingly infinite capabilities, many of which are unknown even to its users. They can function as a weapon, they can provide information, they can heal their user, and open bone tubes, crafted out of the mysterious element X. They're believed to have ties to the natural world and possess a real bond with their user, often self-destructing when their user dies. But among fans, they're most known for the series of pings which they use to communicate with.
And that is Haimon. Next on the list is Mr. Miracle. Now, we didn't spend a lot of time on him because I hope to one day be able to do a full episode on Mr. Miracle. But scot-free, first appearance was in Mr. Miracle #1, April 1971. Scot-free was sent to Apocalypse by Highfather and was raised under the inhumane care of Darkseid's minion, Granny Goodness. As he grew older, he discovered that he had the uncanny ability to escape any otherwise impossible traps, as well as innate desire to rebel against the tyranny of Apocalypse. To this end, he began being tutored in secret by undercover Genesian named Hyman. Oh, okay. Which is when Scott first met his future wife, Big Barda. They escaped later and got married, but they are part-time heroes and full-time they live in peace.
Right.
But I think if you grew up on Apocalypse, you would want that.
Right. All right, next up, we have Big Barda, first appearance, Mr. Miracle #4, October 71. Barda was bred at a gestation lab in Apocalypse. The genes for these breeds were provided by a selected few of Darkseid's choosing based on the qualities he desired the most: cruelty, avarice, ruthlessness, etc. However, Barda was a natural child, conceived by Big Breeder and another man she loved. But Darkseid took her away from her mother, put her in the gestation lab, and then sent her to be raised at Granny Goodness's orphanage without ever knowing her mother. She became team leader of the female Furies, but defied Granny Goodness when she fell in love with scot-free, Mr. Miracle. She escaped Apocalypse with Scot-free to Earth, where she and Scott married. She is a member of the Justice League of America and the Birds of Prey. She and Scott led a quiet life, no longer to be heroes.
And that's Big Barda. That's another one of my favorites. Next, Orion, like the star. First appearance, New Gods #1, March 1971. And his last appearance was Final Crisis #1 in July 2008. Orion is the son of Darkseid and was traded for scot-free in the peace efforts between New Genesis and Apocalypse. He was raised as a son of Highfather Isaiah and was taught to control his rage and anger, becoming the most powerful warrior either world has ever seen. This in itself was not an easy task, given that his heritage boiled with rage and of the brutal and merciless Darkseid. Learning how to control his dark nature consumed much of Orion's youth. But as he grew, his friends among the New Gods, especially Light Ray, helped him direct his anger. He later fell in love with Becca, daughter of the Apocalyptian dissident Hyman, and he married her. He is a hero dedicated to the ideals of New Genesis. His fighting skill and stamina has earned him the nickname the Dog of War. He actually acquired the anti-life equation, which was also in Justice League. That's the thing that Darkseid is always looking for. And he went to Apocalypse to defeat his father. He did not use the anti-life equation due to the issues of pride and earning his destiny. He has always been destined to overthrow his father. He instead used it to go to war and create intergalactic peace. He turned war into a utopian world that began disrupting the balance of the universe. It is revealed that Darkseid actually, along with Metron, allowed Orion to defeat him so he could then understand the potential of the anti-life equation. Orion was later forced to give up power of the anti-life equation and decided it was for the best because his use of the powers violated the principles of free will and equitably will lead to tyranny. And a little bit about the anti-life equation, it basically is like you can take over vast amounts of people with this. That's why Darkseid is always looking for it. A lot of people, there's a scene that was cut from, there's a scene that's the original, the theater Justice League. There's an end scene where Batman and a group of stragglers, and they walk up on what seems to be a lunatic Joker. It was a like deleted scene. What has happened is Darkseid has come to Earth. That vision that he had in, I think it was Man of Steel, where he keeps seeing the parademons and all that. Well, Darkseid was successful in getting the anti-life equation and has taken over Earth. But that is what in Justice League he's looking for. Steppenwolf comes. He's looking for that mother box, but his goal, Darkseid's goal, is always anti-life equation because you can control everything, the whole planet, every living being on it. But it does lead to tyranny. Next up,
we have Metron. First appearance, New Gods #1, March 71. Last appearance, Death of the New Gods #7, May 2008. Metron claims to have allegiance to neither New Genesis nor Apocalypse, and yet he seems to do good more often than not. Metron is an observer, interested only in acquiring knowledge and experience, all of which is held within the Mobius chair. The chair also allows him to fold time and space and travel into alternate dimensions, including Apocalypse. Now, Metron is like the Indiana Jones of these guys, in that he doesn't take sides in their war, but more often when he does have the knowledge, he basically gives it to High Father, not Darkseid. It is noted that his Mobius chair is one of the most powerful items ever created. And basically, it can be seen as a throne-like seat that is usually seen hovering above the ground and almost always occupied by Metron and no one else.
he reminds me of Black Bolt.
Right.
All right, next on our list, the Forever People. Now, their first appearance was in the Forever People #1, March 1971, and their last appearance was in Death of the New Gods #4 in February 2008. Highfather engaged in a social experiment where he selected 5 young individuals from different points in Earth's history whose lives would have been brief and painful, and he brought them to New Genesis to be raised as new gods. The 5 children, their names were Beautiful Dreamer, Moonrider, Big Bear, Seraphim, and Viking. They grew up as close friends and eventually began to refer to themselves as the Forever People. Darkseid kidnapped Beautiful Dreamer and brought her to Earth, where her friends came for her with the help of Superman. Beautiful Dreamer was rescued with the help of Infinity Man, which Infinity Man is what they become when they merge all together, all 5 of them. The Forever People decided to remain on planet Earth, though, and they wanted to explore the world, and in doing so, a part of their own missing heritage, because he took them from Earth at different points in history. So, but the forces of Darkseid will always be nipping at their heels every step of the way, because Darkseid is forever trying to destroy these young people. And that is the Forever People.
All right, next up we have Drax, aka the Infinity Man.
I'm sorry. It's not that they become Infinity Man, they summon.
No, they release him.
They summon. Yeah, they summon Infinity.
So Drax, who was actually one of Darkseid's brother, at one point in time was horribly burnt. He was rescued by Astor, a powerful warrior from another planet who happened to be the original Infinity Man. After nursing Drax back to health, he was able to pass the role of Infinity Man to Drax before dying of old age. However, it took Drax years of study before he was ready to assume the title of Infinity Man. Drax eventually came to serve Highfather on New Genesis, where he was acquainted with the Forever people and became a protector. Whenever Infinity Man was needed, all the Forever people would do would touch the mother boxes and recite the word terrible, thus tossing them into limbo until Infinity Man returned the power to them. Darkseid saw Infinity Man as a threat and figured out a way to place him in another dimension, where Infinity Man made a planet called Adon his home. The Forever people were able to free him from this prison. Later in the DC continuity, Infinity Man is the reason for the death of many new gods and the Forever people. Drax had been posing as Highmon to avoid detection. God challenged him to battle as a false god, but after defeating him, Infinity Man teleported away. His motive for killing the new gods remains unclear. However, he claims to be acting on behalf of the source itself and is revealed as the good half of an entity that previously encompassed the source and the anti-life equation, with his killing spree and attempt to reunite both aspects.
What does that sound like a story of?
Yeah.
That's Eternals 101.
Right.
One of them always has to defect. And that's Drax, the Infinity Man. Okay, next up on our list is Forager. Now, his story was a little confusing because I had Prime Earth and New Earth story.
Right.
But this is New Earth because he is still a part of the DC universe. He was resurrected in 2017. So
right, and he's on what, Young Justice?
yes, he is. You see him a lot in not only Young Justice, but what's the other one? Superheroes, all of them together. Justice League. Yeah, because Justice League, especially the early 2000s cartoon, visited New Genesis and of course Apocalypse a lot. Those were big stories for them. Okay, Forager was his first appearance was in New Gods #9 in July of 1972. His last appearance was in Cosmic Odyssey #4 in March of 1989. And as I just said, he was brought back into the DC universe in 2017. But we're not going to cover that one today because that's a whole New Gods story. We're only focusing on New Earth stories. So, evolving from the microlife spread on New Genesis during the war with Apocalypse, Forager's adopted people are a society of humanoid bugs that thrive in colonies beneath the surface of the planet of New Genesis. These colonies were ruled by beings known as Queen Widow and Prime One. Considered to be below the new gods of the floating city Supertown, the bugs formed a lower class of New Genesis and were sometimes the target of prejudice by the gods. Look at that, they always have to have someone to look down. Although Forager was raised among the insect nation, it is rumored that he's in fact not their species. As you can see, he has a whole suit on, so don't really know what he is. They actually don't know his name or anything like that. He was adopted. And so it is rumored that he may be, in fact, from another race of gods. When the bug society was threatened, Forager was the one who sent by his colonies to the rulers to entreat the gods for aid. With the help of Orion and Lightray, he prevented the renegade bug Mantis from slaughtering the bug species. Initially treated as subhuman by the new gods, particularly the hot-headed Orion, Forager proved himself to be a worthy ally against the forces of Darkseid, and he eventually met his end, saving Batman's life and preventing the destruction of Earth from the embodiment of the anti-life equation. Later, Orion carried Forager's body to the Insect Empire by the decree of Highfather and slowly became a respected warrior to his people and respect of the warrior and his people. So that is Forager and the bugs of New Genesis. Yeah, good old apocalypse. Yes.
We have the planet of Apocalypse on the dark side. Now, Apocalypse is the complete opposite of New Genesis. This planet is ruled by the tyrant Darkseid, who is also the brother to Highfather. Most of the ruling is actually in the hands of the counselor Darkseid. Darkseid has no real contenders for the throne of Apocalypse except the demon Mantis, although his sons Orion, Raven, and Calaback are also potential contenders. Darkseid is cursed by Raven and Calaback's stupidity, and while he is also cursed by Orion's service of good. It is prophesied that Orion will be the one to overthrow Darkseid. The majority of the population of Apocalypse are called lowlies. They are a bald and fearful race that has no sense of self-worth or value. Doesn't it sound like the demons?
Yeah.
The lowlies are subject to constant abuse that ends only with death. Slightly above them are the parademons, who serve as the keepers of order on the planet. Higher above the parademons are the female Furies, who are Darkseid's personal guard. Male Furies also exist, but are less common. They are blessed with unnatural strength and longevity and are allowed to develop as individuals. The leaders of the Furies are Granny Goodness, who sports the appearance of a matronly old woman while being the most powerful of the guards, and Kanto, who enjoys a unique position as Darkseid's master assassin. The chief guard, Big Barda, had a third position under Granny, which has not been filled since her defection from the group. And that is the introduction to the planet.
Yeah. Barren place, just awful. Fire everywhere. All right. And then we have the leader himself, Darkseid. His first appearance was in Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 134 in December of 1970. So before he even put his fourth world out there, they introduced Darkseid, who has been a formidable opponent to Superman a lot. Darkseid is ambitious, destructive, and cruel. He seeks to conquer the universe and eliminate free will, using his formidable power to pummel the worlds into submission until they serve his every whim. Darkseid, whose real name is Euxis. Yes, I had to look it up because I was like, Uxus does not sound, but it's Euxis. He was born of the royal family of Apocalypse, and from an early age, he longed to sit upon the throne. This longing grew into an obsession, and when his brother Drax attempted to claim the fabled Omega Force, Euxis murdered him and claimed it for himself. Taking the name Darkseid, he would eventually orchestrate the murder of his mother, Hagar, and which at the time he was finally able to seize the throne of Apocalypse. Every creature on the planet works in servitude to Darkseid in some way, and that servitude comes with a frequently high cost. It's usually your life. Darkseid's legions sacrifice their lives for him by the hundreds. He also has the female Furies, which are his personal bodyguards, and he also has complete loyalty from the parademons, the winged creatures completely loyal to Darkseid, who form a bulk of his attacking force. You saw those things in Justice League. That's what they are. They serve nothing but Darkseid. Darkseid's sons, you have the massive and destructive Calaback, and then the egotistical and treacherous Graven, who looks a lot like his father. And then you have the strong and fierce Orion. I still want to call him Orion. The fact that Darkseid is a family man, you could say so, is no, because believe it or not, the single most important event in the New Gods history has to do with the rigors of family. His primary goal is to eliminate the universe's free will and to reshape it in his image. As such, he became infatuated with the anti-life equation, which can be used to assume full control over thoughts and emotions of every living being. This has often put him in contention with Earth's heroes, notably Superman, who is one of Superman's biggest foes, as Darkseid believed that the fragments of the anti-life equation exist within the minds of humans. So that's why he came to Earth to begin with. And that is Darkseid.
Okay. Next up, we have Darkseid's uncle,
Mhm.
Steppenwolf. First appearance New Gods number 7, March 1972, and his last appearance was Terror Titans number 2, January 2009. Steppenwolf was the brother of Queen Hegra of the planet Apocalypse and the uncle of that world's later ruler, Hegra's son Darkseid. Steppenwolf commanded Apocalypse's army during Hegra's reign. Darkseid suggested to Steppenwolf to hunt and kill people in New Genesis, but he secretly intended that Steppenwolf to cause an incident that would incite war between the two planets. During that raid, Steppenwolf killed Avia, Isaiah's wife. Darkseid's scheme worked, causing a devastating war, with Isaiah leading New Genesis forces and Steppenwolf commanding those of Apocalypse. During the war, Steppenwolf encountered the vengeful Isaiah, who slain him in battle. However, he was resurrected, and Darkseid once again put him in command of his military. Steppenwolf later appears as a member of the board of the Darkseid Club, and in this he was killed by a clock king.
That was his end. And you put these beautiful updated pictures, but I had to include this classic picture of Steppenwolf. I mean, right now he looks really cool.
Well, you know what? When my brother had toys, when we used to wake up in the morning for Christmas, I would have G.I. Joe and Star Wars. He would have He-Man and DC characters. Steppenwolf was one of Steppenwolf. I remember him having Steppenwolf and what's the nephew's name? I mean his grandnephew. Calaback.
Calaback.
He had those as actual characters.
Does he still have it?
I have to see and find them. My uncle, when he bought our old house, he threw out a lot.
Gotcha.
All right, so.
Right. Next on our list is Calaback. His first appearance was in New Gods number 1 in March 1971, and his last appearance was in Final Crisis number 6 in January 2009. Calaback is the firstborn son of Darkseid and Suli. His mother Suli was killed by Darkseid, acting under the controls from Calaback's grandmother, Queen Hegra. Calaback became a legendary warrior and often serves as Darkseid's second in command. After Darkseid broke the peace pact with New Genesis, the rival planet of Calaback's home of Apocalypse, he aided his father in the resulting battle. Calaback is often pitted against Orion, and after numerous clashes, they learn that they are half brothers. This fueled Calaback's hatred for Orion to a new level, for Darkseid clearly valued Orion over his firstborn. He was recently killed by Infinity Man, who had been murdering residents of Apocalypse and New Genesis as an agent for the Source Wall. During the Final Crisis, Calaback was reborn in a human body along with the rest of the New Gods of Apocalypse. Once the evil factory resumed its work, Calaback was given a new Tiger Man body and an army of Tiger warriors to serve as his personal force. And when Roland said that he was not the smartest, he is not incorrect on that. Some of my favorite memories of watching the original Justice League cartoon in the early 2000s was how stupid Calaback was. It was
Beast Man from the He-Man.
Yeah, he would get in so much, like, he was a great warrior and he was strong, but he was not smart. And they would always fool, like the Justice League would just always fool, especially Batman. That's Calaback.
All right, so next up on the list, we have the third son of Darkseid, Graven.
I always want to call him Graven.
Graven. His first appearance was Green Lantern Volume 3, number 74 in June 1996. So he is a fairly new character.
Yes, he is after 0 Hour.
Yeah. And his last appearance would have been Outsiders, 5 of a Kind, Thunder and Martian Manhunter number 1, October.
After doing the research on this, I want to find that issue because Yeah, I want to find that issue.
All right, so Graven, the third son of Darkseid, born of an unknown mother on one of the countless worlds conquered by Darkseid, is the younger brother to Calaback and Orion. He is often fueled by feelings of abandonment and resentment. Graven has led a campaign of destruction against the cosmos, decimating planets in an attempt to garner enough power to take his birthright by force and conquer Apocalypse. In the process, he effectively eliminated the Dark Stars, an entire galactic police force. His campaign came to an end on the planet Rain. He desired the Zeta Beam, a product of Rainian science that provides instantaneous transportation on a grand scale. You know who's in possession of the Zeta Beam?
I thought it was the
Adam
beam.
Strange.
Oh,
That's how he traveled. Remember the
We
Rainian,
really
he
should.
ended up on the planet Rain.
we really should do an episode on that.
So now Graven intended to use the Zeta Beam to move his forces to Apocalypse, announce his presence to his father, and conquer the planet. His plan is thwarted by Kyle Rayner, the Green Lantern, and another Green Lantern, John Stewart, who actually suffered serious injuries in the fight. Kyle tricked Graven into the Zeta Beam, where he was teleported off-Ran. Lacking their leader, Graven's forces retreated. Now, at a time,
Spoiler alert.
Graven was lobotomized and nearly catatonic, but Thunder and the Martian Manhunter restored his mind and assisted him in building a Zeta Beam generator meant to send the unknown scourge of the New Gods to Darkseid's throne room. This would force Darkseid and the Killer to fight and benefit Graven either way. Thunder and John tricked Graven, however. John shapeshifts into the Black Racer, the New God's incarnation of death, which prompts Graven to use the Zeta Beam on himself to escape. The real Killer finds him moments later at his destination and murders him.
Which we all know is Drax, the Infinity Man. Right, and that's Graven. All right, Darkseid. Darkseid is the first appearances in Forever People #2 in May of 1971. Darkseid is the sadistic chief torturer of Darkseid, the ruler of Apocalypse, of course. He was originally born in New Genesis, but was corrupted by Darkseid. Darkseid made him believe that his pet cat had killed his pet bird. He punished the cat by burying it alive. When the bird came back, he killed the bird in a fit of rage. Then he followed Darkseid to Apocalypse. Darkseid became the young Darkseid's henchman, and when threatened by Darkseid's mother, the wicked Queen Hydra of Apocalypse, Darkseid was forced to poison Darkseid's beloved princess, Suli. Hydra's plan was for Darkseid to then marry the concubine Hydra. When Darkseid discovered what happened, he forced Darkseid to poison Hydra in revenge. From that day, Darkseid has been Darkseid's main henchman. You know who he reminds me of? Remember in He-Man, the little floaty thing? That's who he reminds, but you know, with legs.
But you know, he's a closer amalgam to in Marvel.
Oh,
the guy who runs around with Thanos.
oh yeah, he
I
does.
can't think of his name right off, but
Yeah.
he was the main one walking through.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
you have.
Yeah.
You are witness to
Yeah.
the greatest thing.
Yeah, he's like the announcer.
Right.
The Thanos is here. Yes, he does look kind of like him. Yes. Well, over the years, Darkseid has been tortured by Darkseid and killed by his Omega beings thousands, countless times for every failure and every betrayal, according to Darkseid. But Darkseid always brings him back, and because he's vital to Darkseid, and he always says, resurrects Darkseid, saying, "This is the last time," because he knows he needs him.
But Darkseid, no, he can go and mess up, and Darkseid ain't scared to die.
Yeah, I mean, who would be if you lived on Apocalypse?
Yeah. All right. Now, our next denizen of Apocalypse is Kraken. Her first appearance was Green Lantern Volume 4, number 25, January 2008. And her last appearance was Final Crisis number 5, December 2008. Now, on a run there, huh? She was a dedicated member of the second iteration of the Green Lantern Corps. She is originally from Apocalypse. Known as a fierce warrior, she proved her valor during the Sinestro Core War. Following the war's end, Kraken was selected to join a new contingent of the GLC known as the Alpha Lantern Corps. Her body underwent biological conversion to make her an infallible, incorruptible enforcer of the Book of Orion. Unfortunately for Kraken, she became a force in Darkseid's quest for power. Darkseid had Granny Goodness mind control of Kraken. Granny Goodness took control of Kraken's mind for a long time and knew what the other lanterns knew. She framed Hal Jordan for the murder of the new god Orion. When Batman confronted Kraken about her accusations, she was briefly able to escape Granny Goodness's mind control and tried to warn Batman. Granny took control quickly and sent Batman to New God's base in Bloodhaven. Eventually, Honor Lanterns, Guy Gardner, and Kyle Rayner exposed Kraken's scheme. Granny and Kraken attempted to siphon the green energy reservoir from the central power battery in a last-ditch effort to fulfill her mission objectives. The Guardians initiated the Chrono Protocol, and Kraken was apprehended and taken to Science City. And that is Kraken.
There are some good people on Apocalypse that can be controlled like people, like by Granny Goodness. Okay, first appearance of Miss Granny Goodness was in Mr. Miracle #2 in June 1971. Her last appearance was in Final Crisis #5, December 2008. Granny Goodness is the sadistic and cruel lieutenant to Darkseid. She oversees the training in her orphanage and commands the female Furies. She was born a member of the Lowlies of Apocalypse, and she was removed from her parents and trained to be one of Darkseid's hounds. It's another elite soldier that he had. It's funny, they called them hounds like dogs. A lot of dog references on Apocalypse. Darkseid had Granny run the training facility for his elite soldiers where she uses brainwashing and torture and a brutal parody of childcare to turn innocent into fanatical warriors willing to kill and die for Darkseid's glory. Since the war between Apocalypse and New Genesis first moved to Earth, Granny Goodness was often running earthly orphanages looking for potential warriors for Darkseid. Granny runs the orphanages on Apocalypse, and she is the chief female Fury, of course. She also raised Scott Free, the son of High Father of New Genesis, who had been traded for Darkseid's son in a peace treaty. Scott Free, aka Miracle, became the first child to successfully escape one of her orphanages. And that is Granny Goodness.
All right, so next up, Granny Goodness is the harbinger of the female Furies.
Yes.
The female Furies are the trained warriors on Apocalypse that basically raised in Granny Goodness's orphanage. The Furies were taught military tactics and under Goodness and assassination under Canto. Goodness instilled fanatical loyalty in the Furies, teaching them to be loyal to her first, but for their foremost loyalty to be for Darkseid, making them willing to die for Darkseid. Big Barda was the most feared leader of the Furies until she escaped Apocalypse with Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle. And
if you want to know more about this, check out our episode from last month in Women's History Month. The first week of March, we covered female Furies in depth. All right, next on our list is the Black Racer. First appearance in New Gods #3, 1971. The Black Racer is the embodiment of death to the New Gods. The Black Racer's body form is in a bedridden Vietnam veteran, Sergeant Willie Walker. He was paralyzed during the Vietnam War, and Walker was contacted by the Source when Darkseid first brought the War of the Gods to Earth. And he was told that it was his responsibility to take on the role. The Racer makes use of skis as his means of transportation, and New Gods are collected by the Racer at the moment of their deaths and taken to Hades, which is the fourth world version of Hades.
You know, it seems to me that he's riding on skis so he can be close to the Silver Surfer. Now, the one thing I want to say about the Black Racer, you know how they say that his form basically is attached to another individual. He's actually been attached to Barry Allen as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So because in essence, the Black Racer is a speedster. So what they did, I can't remember the exact storyline, but I do recall that the Black Racer took over Barry Allen's. And for something to happen, but because of the speed force kind of negated the power, the new God power that was flowing through the Black Racer. And I can't remember exactly what happened. Somebody did something to try to negate the speed force. And what it did, instead of killing the Black Racer, it actually saved Barry, separated.
Okay.
So I gotta look that up. Maybe.
I know, yeah, because I never heard of him before we did this.
Well, you know, he was actually on the latest Justice League
movie,
the Justice League War.
Oh,
yeah, Black Racer.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that one. It's been a while.
All right. So next up, we have Joe Vita. You know what I think they are crazy. All of them with that name that I've met so far. That look she has on her face right there. Okay. So, no offense to those of you out there. First appearance, New Gods, Volume 3, Number 8, September 1989. Jovita was a freedom fighter and a leader of the rebel group known as the Hunger Dogs of Apocalypse. Not everyone on Apocalypse is subjugated to Darkseid. There are some who rebel against his rule, and Jovita is their leader. She admired Hyman, which caused her to become a rebel and leader to the Hunger Dogs in the first place, smuggling resources from the war machines of Apocalypse to feed those in need. She crossed paths with Orion when he was on a quest to find and rescue his mother. His presence attracted the attention of Tyrus and his tracker, sent by Darkseid to hunt Orion. Jovita and Orion parted ways when he decided to infiltrate Darkseid's army. Jovita became the target of a hunt mission as well, and Calaback led a group of soldiers for that task. But in that group was Orion in disguise, so he helped Jovita and the Hunger Dogs escape. In return for that favor, Jovita has helped Orion make his way through Section 0 and find his mother. She also tried to soothe Orion's obsession with his revenge, but could not tame the beast that was Orion's warrior nature.
That is Jovita.
One of the most normal looking people
on Apocalypse. Yes. And last of who we will cover on Apocalypse is the Parademons. They look cooler in the movie, but you know, hey. But the Parademons' first appearance was in New Gods #1 in March 1971. Parademons are the personal shock troops of Darkseid. They are genetically created in Apocalypse laboratories and serve as his loyal army. Some parademons are bred from human stock called from the lowly Hunger Dogs that reside in the Armageddon district of Apocalypse. I love it. I love it. I love comic book, how they come up with these names. When Apocalypse decides to mount an interplanetary invasion, usually Earth, he sends a wave of parademons as his advance force. The parademons have engaged in combat with several of Earth's mighty superheroes, most notably the Justice League. Yeah. And that is the parademons.
Because it was doper the way that they showed it in the movie, where the parademon would basically take a human, and I can't remember if they pulled them into it, they just held them until they started changing or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was literally like,
that was quite nice.
Like I don't even think they had to bite them or anything. They just had to grab them, and then it would
like infect them.
Oh yeah.
Now these parademons right here look like the flying monkeys from the Wizard of no, the weed, not the Wizard of the Weeds.
Okay, I think I took your notes. Because because I have 2 sets of notes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they were on the print.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Y'all walked out there and you were what it did.
And that is what we have for today. Our side note conversation about notes there. These are our works cited. I highly suggest you to look into some of these new things. One thing we did not mention that a few years ago, after Justice League had come out for DC and with Warner Brothers, what was supposed to happen next was Ava DuVernay was supposed to direct New Gods.
Right.
So what you had was Justice League and how it ended, but then when the whole mess with Snyder leaving, not being able to complete it, and what's his name taking over and changing the story completely, it scrapped DuVernay's, like it just didn't work for New Gods. And what that was supposed to introduce was Apocalypse. It was supposed to introduce you to Apocalypse, New Genesis.
Take you to the world.
Yeah, and you were supposed to be introduced. I think there was a scene that was cut that they added back in that 4-hour Justice League movie that's on HBO Max, that you get to see not only Darkseid and that a little bit of that world. You saw Granny Goodness. You saw the son. What's his name again?
No, Calaback.
Calaback. So that was her project she had started working on.
And that storyline was actually the full storyline was supposed to show scot-free,
you were introduced to
and escaping to Earth, become members of
Justice League. Yes, yes, and they ruined it, but I'm not going to get on my high horse about that one. So I suggest you just take a look at our works cited and check some of the stuff out for yourself, because it would have been a great story. But lots of work here, lots of characters. We only scratched the surface. But yeah, that is the New Gods, and I don't think they will be doing it. I don't know what Warner Brothers is up to later, but I do know what we're up to. And if you want to check some of these stories out, you can check them out with Comics Plus. You can borrow and read thousands of digital comics, graphic novels, and mangas from the Clayton County Library System. Note, you do have to live in Clayton County and have a Clayton County Library card to access this. So if you don't have a library card, come get one so you can access Comics Plus with no holes or waiting list. Plus you can get offline access to your tablet, computer, or smartphone. So go on online and sign up today. And in 2 weeks on May 10th, you will join us. This is Roland's baby here. I'm just along for the ride. So we will be talking about the Marvel Cosmos. And that will be on May 10th at 4:00. So meet us back here for that. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks.